This week's topic is a personal one and it runs really deeply. So much so that it took me a while to get to this particular episode. And I promise you that if you stick around all the way to the end, you'll find nuggets that are going to be a blessing to you on your own journey. Today, we're delving into self-abandonment and how we can transform it into a practice of self-care, even when resources seem scarce. So grab your cup of coffee or tea if you prefer and cozy on up with me and let us delve right into this topic. I'm Kari, Heron, speaker, media content queen, and consultant to leaders and businesses, inviting you into this episode of Thrive with Kari. But right now, I need you to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and also share with people you know who also have a growth mindset, who want to expand into the fullness of their purpose, just like we do. I just want to leave a disclaimer that while I am a neuro-linguistic programming practitioner and an international professional certified coach, I, Kari Heron, am not a therapist. And so if you are feeling like you're suffering severely, or not even if you're suffering any at all, but if you feel like you need to talk to somebody, please see a therapist. This is not therapy. Can we normalize people of color from all over the world really going to therapy, engaging in therapy, and not being ashamed about it? Because that's important. People of Caribbean heritage, of African heritage, of Asian heritage, of Latin American heritage, Middle Eastern heritage, let's normalize therapy. I know that our communities are big on keeping people out of our business. And those who have been raised with British ideals are taught to maintain a stiff upper lip and to remain stoic and emotionless. But it's 2024 and people need to learn to live and heal fully, period. Bottling things down is why so many of us are suffering in secret. Let's normalize sharing meaningfully. Let's normalize connecting meaningfully and giving the grace and space for people to share their vulnerabilities. With that said, I'll go first. This podcast took me 3 entire weeks to prepare and to get to actual production. It was 3 intense weeks. I had already filmed like 7 episodes in this season and knew the last 3 topics I wanted to share to round out this season of 10 episodes. This was absolutely not one of them. Those other 3 topics were strong ones, but this one just started to bubble up as an internal question, and then it got louder. It got so loud that I had to pause and pay attention. And then I discussed the question with my friend, who is soon to be a licensed psychologist, and I can't wait to have her as a resource person on our show all the time. I've known her since high school, and that conversation sent me further down a rabbit hole. But by now you know that I have a thing for rabbit holes, right? So let's walk right down this one. My initial question to my friend was, how does one allocate resources that are intermittently scarce to prioritize oneself even in hard times? In other words, when you're short of resources, whether it be time, energy, rest, finances, or human relationships or support, how do you prioritize you when there are competing priorities that, well, must be prioritized? I know we often hear the adage, put on your oxygen mask first. And it's a statement of truth that I too often repeat. And even the very premise of this podcast, aptly titled Thrive with Kari and our tagline, The Desert Blooms, purport that thriving trumps surviving. But how do you really thrive in survival mode? How do you really make deserts bloom? I answered the latter question in a previous episode, number 7, titled How to Thrive in Desert Seasons. You can check that one after this. But there's a difference between a prolonged season of hardship and one that's intermittently laced with ups and downs. How do you remain consistent when your very circumstances are inconsistent? Let me use finances as an illustration. If you have a bank account and you're making lots of withdrawals and no deposits, eventually you'll run out of money. And if there's an overdraft facility on that account, you will go into a deficit and will now owe the bank for the money that was borrowed, plus whatever charges that they add on top of this credit facility because you ran out of your own money. Consider life as a monthly budget with all of life's needs being line items. Your income is fixed, yet your expenses are not. Some are fixed, like mortgages, rent, and other fixed payments, but others are not. Some monthly expenses may increase due to your own consumption, and while others are determined by the other party. Costs may increase, for example, due to inflation, and you may have to suddenly pay more for the very same product or service whilst your income remains fixed. And of course, there is that line of miscellaneous needs because, well, anything can happen. When there is less coming in than what is going out, the budget is unbalanced and your account is in the red. It is in danger zone. It's an untenable place to be. There are only two ways to resolve this problem. One is to decrease expenses. So you've got to make hard but necessary cuts to limit money going out. This is why companies have redundancies as a cost-cutting measure or cost-saving measure. And what this does is that they cut the amount of hires because when you do that, you cut all the related costs associated with each employee because employees have not only costs of salary, but also other related costs like benefits and even the cost of hire, cost of training, all of these things. In our personal budgets, this could look like selling an expensive car that has a car loan attached to it and replacing it with a cheaper car that doesn't have a loan, so you cut out that loan payment. The second way to solve the problem is to increase income. So you literally have to go about finding ways to either increasing current income streams or creating new ones. So you simply have to make more money. But the very best way to manage a financial deficit is neither one nor the other. It's a combination of both. And you must cut expenses and increase income. That way, you also give yourself a buffer for future changes by having a surplus that you can save and also investments that become passive income streams just in case you cannot actively pursue or income or work for whatever reason. Got it? So now let me get really real with you. As I contemplated the question of how to prioritize my own self-care consistently, even in the wake of inconsistency in my circumstances and my resources, it led me to a concept I learned during my NLP training some 9 years ago. And it's called as if reframe. I'll get more into that later on in this podcast. But you see, when you find yourself stuck in a place of limitations, you have to do something to disrupt that pattern. Cycling up and down or on and off, they're both patterns and not one that is working out over time. So you've got to stop and interrupt. It finally dawned on me that I must muster the mindset and habit to live as if the resources I needed to be consistent in my own self-care were already abundantly available to me. And so I went deeper yet. I've been struggling to remain consistent with my own self-care for some time. And it wasn't just It wasn't just post-divorce and having to rebuild from suddenly having to face hundreds of thousands of joint debt alone or having to raise a young child alone in a foreign country, nor the fact that I couldn't close as many deals on the ground because of widespread xenophobia or fear of the foreigner or extranjero. I noticed for many years I had been inconsistent in putting my own needs first. This was a pattern. And if I were to be brutally honest with myself, this was a learned behavior that had become habit and one that I defaulted to whenever things got really tough. As I pondered that and allowed myself to go deeper, a few things started to rise to the surface. I recognized that somewhere in all of the hard things that happened in my life was an unconscious me choosing those hard things. Perhaps not directly in all circumstances, but indirectly by making decisions that would lead to such outcomes. Like, yes, I may have been abandoned in my marriage, and yes, in a foreign country as well. But in what ways did I abandon myself and so lay the foundation to be abandoned by somebody else? And having abandoned myself in those ways, how did I set myself up for further abandonment? Deeper still, I had to ask myself a really, really hard question. In what ways have I sabotaged myself? And in what ways do I continue to do so? Deep breath, right? I then asked myself, in what ways has your self-abandonment resulted in the current hardships you face? And then, how can you disrupt that pattern? You see, somewhere in my life, I learned to put the needs of others before my own, even if that was burying me. And when I felt overwhelmed with this putting aside of me for the sake of the communal common good, instead of abandoning the dead weight of others, I would dig deeper and find greater intestinal resolve and fortitude to carry other people's hell and burdens. I was participating in my own burial by actively burying myself alive in their stuff. Eventually, I was so deep that I only kept alive by having some sort of a straw that I would breathe through, coming through to the surface, way below this heavy dirt being buried. Somehow I had learned to sacrifice myself for the common good, to sacrifice my dreams and desires and my basic human needs for the common good. I would go about serving and fixing others to my own neglect. We're taught that selflessness is a virtue, and we're rewarded for doing that. Even acts of bravery, if you think about it, are often considered as those where we risk or even lose our own lives in order to protect or save that of others. And there's nothing wrong with that. There is indeed something courageous about that. But whoever have you ever seen was awarded a Medal of Bravery for daring to save oneself? But for many of us who have learned this dysfunctional codependency, saving ourselves is the very definition of courage. You've heard me mention self-abandonment in this podcast, but let's get a definition as to what it is and the ways that you could be abandoning yourself, as well as how you can apply as if reframes and in what ways you can heal from that and live differently. Self-abandonment, my friends, is the very act of neglecting our own needs, desires, and well-being. It manifests in various ways, hindering our growth and happiness. Let's uncover the top 20 ways we may be abandoning ourselves. I see myself in so many of them, and in the comments, I want you to share with us which one just touches a button somewhere you can identify with. Number 1, ignoring our emotions. So we suppress or dismiss our feelings instead of acknowledging and processing them, which can lead to emotional suppression and detachment. 2, neglecting physical health. We disregard exercise, nutrition, and rest, leading to physical and mental fatigue and decreased vitality. 3, overcommitting. We say yes to everything and everyone, depleting our energy and time. We say yes to every demand and request, spreading ourselves thin and neglecting our own priorities and limits. We even volunteer to overcome it. 4. Perfectionism. We chase perfection, leading to self criticism and burnout. Because perfectionism is a moving post that can never be reached, we get stuck in the pattern of chasing ideals, setting unrealistic standards that cannot be attained, and that reinforce a perceived sense of failure and gives one the excuse to not act. It's trying to get all the ducks lined up in a row in order to do something instead of just simply doing the thing and letting the chips fall where they may, whether or not you're messy doing it and learning along the way. Number 5, people pleasing. We prioritize others' needs over our own, sacrificing our authenticity and our well-being. After a while, you no longer even know who you are because you have sacrificed every bit of your identity on the altar of pleasing everybody and putting the needs of others first. This is not to be confused with healthy service to others in relationships. People pleasing is different because you serve others to the neglect of yourself. There is a huge difference. Number 6, self-criticism. We engage in negative self-talk, eroding our self-esteem and eroding our confidence. We literally become our own biggest critics, beating the haters to it, being so harsh to ourselves, and having such negative internal conversations in ways that we would never even talk to our friends or our children. Number 7, ignoring intuition. We dismiss our own inner wisdom and gut feelings, leading to poor decision making and ignoring valuable guidance for our lives. Number 8, avoiding boundaries. We fail to set healthy boundaries, allowing others to take advantage. When we fail to set and enforce healthy boundaries, by default, we permit, allow, and even invite and encourage others to overstep and deplete our energy and abuse and mar our sacred spaces. Number 9, staying in toxic relationships. We remain in relationships that drain us emotionally and mentally, ignoring red flags and compromising our well-being. Number 10, living in the past or in the future. We dwell on past regrets or worry excessively about the future while neglecting the very present. We literally get stuck in past events, which leads to depression, or worry excessively about the future, which leads to anxiety. Number 11, neglecting personal growth. We resist change and stagnate, missing out on opportunities for growth. We shy away from healing, being stretched, and expanding and learning and developing in ways that would make us better. Instead, we choose rather to remain in our comfort zone, even if it's uncomfortable and does not serve us well, simply because it's familiar. Number 12, we mishandle finances, not increasing financial knowledge and money management skills, overspend or neglect to plan for the future, leading to stress and instability. Number 13, comparison traps. We constantly compare ourselves to others, diminishing our self-worth, measuring our worth based on external standards, and undermining our self-esteem. Number 14, abandoning hobbies. We neglect activities that bring us joy and fulfillment, depriving ourselves of valuable outlets for creativity and self-expression. Things that would bring you joy become neglected. As I prepared for this episode, I also noticed how I neglected many of my own hobbies like reading and long nature walks, exercising, and writing in my journal and travel. Number 15, similar to 14, but a little different. Suppressing creativity. We stifle our innate creativity and imagination, denying ourselves that outlet for expressing ourselves and therefore conforming to societal norms and denying ourselves the joy of expressing ourselves. Number 16, isolating ourselves. We withdraw from social connections and support networks, denying ourselves the nourishment of human connection and understanding. In my own case, I recognize that this was part of the digging deeper habit that I had taken on to carry the dead weight of others. Number 17, ignoring spiritual needs. We neglect our relationship with God and spending time with Him and having our identity renewed in Him and allowing that time spent with Him in reading the Bible, in prayer and worship to nourish our soul, and thereby depriving ourselves of the spiritual rejuvenation, fulfillment, and purpose that comes with having a spiritual practice. Number 18, excessive distraction. So we numb ourselves with excessive distractions such as social media or entertainment or even food or drink or work or exercise, because you can use anything, even good things, to avoid facing inner struggles and emotions. Anything that is used and abused that way is a distraction. 19, ignoring warning signs. We overlook signs of burnout or stress until it's too late, neglecting to listen to our body's signals and addressing our needs. One thing to note that in preparing for this, I also realized that there's a doctor who deals with palliative care, which is the care of people who are terminally ill. And he found that one of the greatest groups of people who became chronically ill were people who were also chronically neglecting of themselves. They had abandoned themselves. They were people who would ignore warning signs, or people who always put other people's needs first. There were people who would always take the choice, even after their diagnosis, of putting themselves down in order to continue to take care of others. And that was quite alarming. But when you think about it, it actually does make a lot of sense. And number 20, neglecting self-care. We prioritize everyone's needs above our own, neglecting self-care and our own well-being, leading to physical and emotional exhaustion. And as we even spoke about just now, to even greater things, as in ill health, disease, chronic pain, chronic problems, and sometimes our own demise. Of course, I'm not going to leave you with just that point. We're going to get into transformation strategies that you can apply to shift things around, because I never leave you without tools. I now want to explain the as if reframe that I spoke about earlier that we use in NLP. As I said earlier in the podcast, in neuro-linguistic programming, NLP, the as if reframes are a technique that we use to encourage individuals to adopt a certain mindset or behavior by acting as if they already possess that mindset or behavior. It involves consciously adopting the thoughts, the feelings, and behaviors associated with a desired outcome, even if they don't currently exist. Here's how as if frames work. You can pause here to go grab a notebook or journal and to take notes. Number 1, setting the intention. You set a clear intention for the desired outcome you want to achieve. This could be anything from feeling confident in social situations to overcoming a fear. Number 2, adopting the mindset. You mentally step into the mindset of someone who has already achieved the desired outcome. You imagine how they would think, feel, and behave if they already reached their goal. Number 3, acting as if. You begin to act as if you already possess the desired mindset or behavior. This may involve consciously mimicking the behaviors of someone who already embodies the desired outcome. Number 4, reinforcing the behavior. By consistently practicing the as if mindset and behaviors, you reinforce neural pathways associated with the desired outcome. Over time, this can lead to a shift in beliefs and behaviors, bringing them closer to your goal. For example, someone who wants to overcome social anxiety may use the as if frame by imagining themselves as a confident and outgoing person in social situations. You would then consciously adopt the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of someone who is confident, such as making eye contact, smiling, and engaging in conversation, even if you initially feel nervous. Through consistent practice, you can rewire your brain to become more confident and comfortable in social settings. Overall, as if frames are a powerful tool in NLP for creating a positive change by leveraging the mind's ability to influence behavior and beliefs. So now let's get into the transformational strategies that you'll apply to overcome those habits where we would have abandoned ourselves because it's time to turn a new leaf. Now that we have identified those patterns, let us explore the practical strategies for transformation. Number 1, emotional awareness. Learn to become more mindful of your emotions. Learn to recognize and honor your emotions without judgment. Allow yourself to feel and express your feelings in a healthy way, whether through journaling, talking to a trusted friend, or seeking professional support. To recognize and honor your emotions without judgment. Number 2, prioritize your health. Prioritize your physical well-being by incorporating small, manageable changes into your daily routine. This could include taking short walks or preparing simple and nutritious meals and ensuring that you get enough sleep each night. Make small, sustainable changes to your diet, exercise, and sleep habits. Number 3, set boundaries. Learn to set and enforce healthy boundaries in your relationships and commitments. Practice saying no to things that drain your energy or don't align with your values, and communicate your needs assertively yet compassionately. Number 4, embrace imperfection. Release the need for perfection and celebrate your progress. Be okay with starting messy and getting better incrementally as you continue to show up in practice. Number 5, practice self-compassion. Cultivate compassion by treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would offer to a dear friend. Practice positive self-talk and create self-care routines that nurture your body, mind, and soul. Number 6, deepen your relationship with God. Develop a deeper connection with God by worshiping Him, reading your Bible, spending time in prayer. After you pray, stay quiet in His presence and allow Him to speak to your soul. Learn how to discern the voice of God by reading your Bible and hiding that word in your heart. And in that way, you will learn how to separate His voice from your voice, that of others, or even that of the enemy. Yield yourself to Holy Spirit and walk in ultimate freedom. Number 7, cultivate healthy relationships. So surround yourself with supportive and nurturing relationships that uplift and inspire you. And where there are toxic individuals around you, set strong boundaries to protect yourself and seek out connections instead that will encourage your growth and well-being. Live in the present. Learn to savor the present moment instead of being stuck in the past or fixated on a future that you have absolutely no control over. Trust God that all the things in your life are working together for your good. Engage fully in whatever you're doing, whether it's in eating or walking or having a conversation, and savor the richness of each experience. Find joy in the little things. Trust God and live. Number 9, invest in personal growth. Embrace change and commit to your personal growth journey. Take small steps towards your goals, whether it's learning a new skill or pursuing a passion project or seeking out opportunities for self improvement. Number 10, prioritize self care. Create a self care routine that nourishes your body, mind, and soul. This could include simple practices such as taking a warm bath or stretching and mobility exercises to get your blood flowing and increase your oxygen or to drain your lymphatic system, or developing a daily and nightly skincare regime, or even spending time in nature. Dedicate time each day to nurture your body, mind, soul, and spirit. And bonus, financial responsibility. Take control of your finances by creating a budget, setting financial goals, and making conscious choices about your spending and saving habits. Seek out resources and support to help you to manage your finances effectively. Learn about finances, learn about wealth, learn about how to steward the resources that you have and increase them so that when the increase comes, you will know how to manage it rather than to mismanage and to continue the cycle of instability. And now, when resources are super limited, this is how you can prioritize your self care. Number 1, slow down and breathe. It's as simple as that. Get off the hamster wheel. Take a few moments each day to just stop and smell the coffee or the roses. Take some deep breaths and thank God that He blows breath into your lungs and that you're alive to live another day. Many aren't. Be grateful for that. And that leads me to number 2. Have a gratitude practice. Cultivate gratitude every day by reflecting on the blessings in your life, no matter how small. Write them down even. Number 3, movement breaks. When we're stuck, sometimes our bodies also get stuck. So incorporate short walks or stretching exercises into your daily routine. Get the body and the blood and the oxygen flowing. Number 4, self-reflection. Set aside time for self-reflection and journaling to connect with your inner thoughts and feelings. Number 5, creative outlets. Engage in creative activities that will bring you joy, such as drawing, writing, playing music, writing music, whatever it is that you light up about. Just do it. Number 6, connect with nature. Spend time outdoors. Come out of the 4 walls that keep on confining you. Whether it's a small, brief walk in the park or just sitting in your backyard, just get outside, get some fresh air, and see something other than a wall. Number 7, reach out for support. Don't hesitate to lean on friends, family, or support groups for encouragement and assistance. Number 8, practice self-compassion. Be gentle with yourself and treat yourself with kindness, especially during challenging times. Don't make this harder for you than it already is. Number 9, limit screen time. Time on social media is insidious, especially if you're watching shorts that go from one to the next. One little watch can turn into 2 hours later. So set boundaries around technology use that will create space and time and additional resources. Free up those resources for relaxation and self-care practices. Number 10, simple pleasures. Find joy in the little things, such as just a warm cup of tea or coffee or a book or a bubble bath. Because the simple things are really the big things. Let them matter to you. Remember, thrivers, self-care is not selfish. It's essential for your well-being and resilience. By prioritizing self-awareness, self-compassion, and self-care, you can transform self-abandonment into empowerment. Until next time, I want you to continue to honor and nurture yourself on your journey to self-mastery and growth. I want to hear from you. In the comments, share some of the topics that you want us to cover and persons you want us to interview in the next season. Also, send us your feedback about this podcast by sending us your voice notes and videos via DM on Instagram at Chef and Steward, and we will play them in upcoming episodes. See the description box for other ways to partner with us to support our mission to help you build healthier and wealthier relationships with yourself and others by feeding your body, soul, spirit, and pocket. I'm Kari Heron, and you've been watching and listening to Thrive with Kari, created and produced by Chef and Steward Content Studio. Join us in the next episode on YouTube. Add us in your library for automatic downloads on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, and wherever podcasts may be downloaded. See you in the next episode. Thrive with Kari. The desert blooms.